Hello again and welcome to Bad Lucky TV. I'm Ethan Silva, and in this tutorial we will be covering how to use the Overshoot expression in Adobe After Effects. Sometimes you want to add a little character to your animations, and I'll be showing you how to do just that with one complex but easy to use expression written by Dan Eberts. Now I can't take credit for this expression, I'll just be walking you through how to use it. It's something I use in a lot of my motion work just to give it a little more personality. First, we'll be going over the basics of the expression and how it works, and then I'll be showing you how to use it in your work with a quick example. To follow along, click the link in the description to download the project files for this tutorial, or grab the expression from the source at motionscript.com. Now, let's get started. Let's take a look at the expression. The Overshoot expression is incredibly easy to use. Despite its terrifying look, it only takes 2 keyframes to work, while After Effects does the heavy lifting for us. We aren't going to go into all the math that goes into making this work. Despite these 4 eyes, I'm not that smart. We're just going to be focusing on the top 2 lines. Frequency, which is abbreviated to FREQ, and decay, which is indicated by decay. Now, what are these variables and how do they work together? The frequency variable tells you how many times per second your object in motion will oscillate. Simply, the frequency determines the rate at which our object passes back and forth. The decay variable tells us how quickly the amplitude diminishes or dies off. This determines how fast our object stops moving before resting in its final position. What we get from all the fancy math involved here is an exponentially decaying sine wave. Our frequency will stay consistent with the rate we set, and our amplitude will decay at the rate we set. Now that we understand the basics of how this expression works, I'm going to give you a quick example that you can follow. Let's create a new composition. For this tutorial, I'll be keeping it at 1920 by 1080 with a frame rate of 24. Now let's create a circle to animate. You can do this by clicking and holding on the rectangle tool to bring up the shape tool options and select ellipse tool, or you can simply press Q on your keyboard to toggle through the shape tool options until you get to the ellipse tool. To create a perfect circle, just click and drag while holding shift to create your shape. If you don't hold down shift, it'll create an elliptical shape, it just won't be a perfect circle. Now we want to move our shape from one side of the composition to the other to demonstrate this effect. First, I'm going to get our object into starting position using the proportional grid. That looks good there. With your shape layer selected, hit P on your keyboard to bring up the position setting. Next, you'll want to click the stopwatch next to the position setting to place our first keyframe. Let's drag our keyframe over to about half a second. Now to create our second keyframe at our endpoint, we're going to drag our object across the composition to the other side. I'm doing this while holding shift to create a straight path. Now that we have our position set, I'm going to turn off the proportional grid. Let's just play this to see what it looks like without any effect. Yep, that's pretty boring. Now hold down the Option key and click on the stopwatch next to your position setting. This is going to open up our expression panel where we'll be pasting our expression. So let's do that now. Right away, this is going to transform this simple motion into something completely different. Let's preview it. You can see that it overshoots our final position by just a bit and wiggles into place. This is still moving a little slow for me, so we're just going to adjust our timing by half and see how that changes things up. You can see that the overshoot is a little more drastic because the speed of our object is higher. Now I'll show you how to adjust these settings so you can change them to best suit your project. Let's change our frequency first. I'm going to bring it down to 1 and see what that does for us. What this means is that it will only oscillate once per second. Since our decay doesn't go much longer than that, it's overshooting once and returning to our final position. If we raise our frequency up, let's say to something like 6, we're going to get a much different effect. You can see that it oscillates much more quickly within the time it's decaying. Now let's mess with our decay setting. The lower we set it, the longer it'll take for the motion to come to an end. If we set it down to 2, it's going to slowly come to an end over a couple of seconds. Let's preview this. When we set it higher, the animation comes to its final position a lot quicker. So let's set it to 10 and see what that looks like. I'm also going to take the frequency down to 3 for this demonstration. Let's bring this down to 2 seconds and preview it. And that's basically it. The great thing about this expression is that it can be applied to almost all keyframe animations. Before we wrap this up, I'm going to create a little animation using these effects. I'm going to copy our keyframes and paste them at 1 second. Then I'm going to right click them, go to Keyframe Assistant, and Time Reverse Keyframes. This is going to cause our animation to bounce back and forth. Next, I'm going to adjust our frequency and decay. I'm going to take our frequency down to 2 and lower our decay to 8. To make things a little smoother, I'm going to enable motion blur as well. And let's preview it. You can see there are a lot of different behaviors you can achieve by messing with these settings. Change it up and see what works best for your project. Thanks again to Dan Aberts for all his outstanding work in creating this expression. If you want an in-depth understanding of what goes into this, as well as many other expressions, please visit his website. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you like and subscribe to the Bad Lucky Studio channel for more content like this. If you have any questions or feedback, feel free to leave a comment below.
Hi, we are Bad Lucky Studios, and we are teaching you how to
make a thing with the video things.
Let's do it.